Book. Let's see. Intros. We don't want wavy grades. That's the intro we want. Okay, there you are on Zoom. I don't see you. Just a second. Just a second. Turn me off. There you are. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. We will start your intro.
Good Sunday afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Kara Say. First, before we get things started, I want you to take a minute and follow us. We are live here on Facebook, actually across all of the social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and the TuneIn app. You can also find us on KUAW.org. That's knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So take a moment to like, comment, and share. And again, follow us across all of the social media platforms under KUAW Radio. Again, that's knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So we are all impacted by the culture, whether politics, government, music, regardless of what it all has a impact on our lives. And this is where we talk about it every first and third Sundays here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Kara Say. Well, first, I have not seen you guys in a minute, so I know it is February, the first Sunday in February, but because I have not seen you, I wanted to take a moment and wish you all a happy new year. I hope that everything is going well with all of you all. I have gotten emails and well wishes from all of you guys. And I do want to say that I did get your responses from the show that I did in December with, or rather regarding bail reform in Illinois. And rather than going back and talking about the Safety Act, which is what it is called in the state of Illinois, we are actually, I spoke with Senator Holscher. I actually have her on the show. Once I just spoke to her on yesterday. I actually also spoke with a few of the judges in Wyandotte County, and I spoke with a judge in Johnson County, and I spoke with a judge in Clay County. And I want to, and I don't want to leave out that I also spoke with some legislators, also both in Sedgwick County, um, Wyandotte County, and Johnson County. And I want to assemble a panel so we can have a discussion regarding bill reform and what that would look like in the And I'm pausing only because I have not gotten confirmation in regards to the Missouri side of the border, but I have gotten confirmation about the Kansas side of the border. So look for that coming soon. And I do hope that the conversation regarding bill reform will happen here on Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay on the third Sunday, which means 2 weeks from today, where we will be talking with government officials. Now, I do know that, or we understand that the Safety Act is something that was handed down on a state level. And you can go back and read that, and I will post a link to the show as well as a link to where you can find the Safety Act and read up on that to familiarize yourself with it, because there was a lot of conversation about that and a lot of misinformation. Just going back briefly, a lot of people were talking about how it was going to be, the bill was going to pass where it was going to be how the doors of the jails or the prisons in certain jurisdictions in Chicago being one of them, but in the state of Illinois, we're just going to open up and all of the criminals were just going to be let free. And it was just going to be sheer pandemonium. And clearly, once I read the act and then I actually shared with you the language from the act, we found that that was not true, and how that act actually benefited us, people of color and Black people, and how it actually addressed the concerns regarding people serving time for offenses that they had not been found guilty of. And by I mean serving time, I mean having to sit and languish in jail simply because they could not afford bond or bail. And then also having to not only stay in jail because they could not afford bond, but possibly sitting in jail because they could not afford bond, and then exceeding the time that the actual crime that they had only been accused of actually had called for. So with that, I mean, say you were arrested for, and I would just say jaywalking. Keep it simple. Say you were arrested for jaywalking, and say that time served for, or the maximum time served for jaywalking could be maybe 3 months in jail. So if you are arrested and your bond is $500, and again, I don't know this, I am just throwing out numbers and throwing out time. So if you are arrested for jaywalking and you get a bond of $500, if you cannot afford your bond of $500, then you're in jail. You have to stay in jail until your court date. You go to court, you cannot afford the bond, and then your court date, say you are arrested January 1st. You go to court, you have your initial court date. The judge sets your next court date because, of course, you'll plead not guilty. And then you'll tell the judge, hey, I can't afford the bond, so you're going to have to stay there. The judge will assign you your next court date. Your next court date, depending on how long the court docket is, and in a lot of major cities, and being that we are in a large city, Kansas City, but Chicago is a lot bigger, and you have cities like New York City, which are, the population is even greater. But when you're in cities like that, then the dockets are even longer. But keeping it here, that means that the dockets are pushed out even further. So if you're arrested on January 1, your court date may not be until maybe, we'll just say the middle of April, April 15th. So if your court date is on April 15th, and you have been arrested on January 1, you can't afford bond, then you have already sat in jail longer than 3 months, which is the sentence that you would have received if indeed you had pled guilty or you were guilty of jaywalking. So even if you were to go to court and to plead not guilty of this offense, then it doesn't matter because you've already sat in jail. So you're already at a disadvantage. And then we haven't even talked about the other side of that, about you sitting in jail for 3 months, which means that you have lost your job, you have lost any income that could have paid your rent, that could have paid your child support, that could have taken care of any fines and fees that will come from a court case. Even if you have a public defender, you still have fines and fees to pay. You possibly could have had your car repossessed or whatever the case may be. You still have bills and the life to live outside of those things. And so not being able to afford a bond criminalizes the poor. It puts a price on being put in jail, and there are certain populations and disparities that are at disadvantage when those things happen, and those things need to be addressed. And as they stand right now, it is not good for our communities on either side of the border, and they need to be addressed. And one thing that we are in agreement about is that it's time for officials, even if it cannot be addressed on a state level, then there's something that we can do as a community to address it on a city and or a county level. And so that is what we are trying to do, and that is going to be the aim for the next show. So if you have any questions, comments, and or concerns, as always, please contact me on Facebook. You can also email the show. You can comment up under any of the posts. You can also go to my business page and email me at dr.carisha@betterdayscounseling and lifecoaching.com. And you can also find me as well on Instagram. So again, this will happen, and this is just one conversation, but this is a fluid conversation. It is ongoing. Nothing is going to be resolved on the next show, nor is it something that is going to be resolved even in the next couple of weeks or in the upcoming month. But however, it is something that we can start having a conversation about and figure out what it looks like and what needs to be done, as well as just addressing those issues, period. So now it's time to verbalize and vocalize what those issues are and bringing to the table what your experiences are. Because if you don't let your legislators know what is going on in your community, then they don't know, okay? So again, by all means, feel free to send out the information and email, text, however you feel the need to contact me or contact us, and we will certainly try to get to as many questions as we can and get back to you and address what we can, even if it's just through the conversation in the show or during the show. So with that being said, what we are going to talk about today is, I would say it's an uncomfortable subject. It is not a subject that we have not had before, but it is a needed subject. And I want to first start it off by saying that it is never an easy subject to talk about. Well, before I get to that, one other thing. There is one other topic that we are going to address now that I'm talking about the court system. Also, I want to start getting feedback from the community regarding the family court system, because I have been talking to you guys over the past year about the Bronze Alert system. So you know about the Bronze Alert. where it is parallel to the Amber Alert system, where we target concerns regarding missing youth as well as issues with Black femicide here in the Kansas City area, and it has expanded abroad. And we did a lot of work with people across the border. And so with that being said, with the Amber, not with the Amber Alert, but with the Bronze Alert system, we wanted to start a program that would not only work in conjunction with, but would serve as an alternative to foster care and provide additional resources for Black youth and people of color. So in order for that to happen, then as always, we need to know what that need is. And to identify that need, we have to get involved with the family court system. And for that, I need you. So along with my own experiences, we are reaching out to the community. So be it Wyandotte County, Jackson County, Johnson County, we have Cass County. I can't think of all of the surrounding counties. And please, any other counties that I can't think of that aren't coming to mind right now. If you have any suggestions, then please, by all means, reach out to us. But what I want to do is to have candid conversations. And please, I want to say that your confidentiality is our utmost concern. Your names will not be used, especially the names of your children will not be used. And I actually don't even need that information if you don't want to provide it. I just want your experiences. And then also, if you want to get on camera and to go live to talk about your experiences in the family court system, then I am willing to do that as well. But there are a lot of things that need to be addressed in the family court system, because just as we need reform and just as we need bail reform, and just as we need reform in the criminal court system, there is much needed reform in the family court system. There is just our family court system is affected just as much by racism, just as much as by all of the disparities in the criminal court system and everywhere else. Our families are being broken apart unjustly, where there is no just way to break up a family. And it is happening here. It is happening here in Clay County. It is happening with the judges. It is happening with the so-called guardian ad litem, and we are going to shed light on it. We are absolutely going to call these people to the carpet. We are going to start to file lawsuits. We are going to start a paper trail. We are going to start criminal charges where needed. We are going to start going after licenses, because just as we call cops, police officers, and detectives and other people to task when they cause harm in our communities, it is time that we start doing the same thing for the people who cause harm to our children and to our families. And that is what we are going to be doing with the Bronze Alert system. So with that being said, and we will get into more detail about that at a later time. Send in your stories, send in your comments, and send in your suggestions. And if you want to comment and talk to me privately, because I do want your story, and I do want to publish your story. So if you want to talk to me privately, all of you know how to get into contact with me, and just let me know, and we will go from there. So going back to our topic today. And of course, this is the subject about what happened on January 7th with the passing of Tyree Nichols and what happened in Memphis, Tennessee. And so What happened to um, Tyree Nichols is unfortunately something that has, he died at the hands of police brutality. And it is very unfortunate that we are having this conversation yet again. And the one thing that we can agree on is that once we get through one, something else comes along. But the process of getting through it always ends up being the same when it happens to a Black person. And what or how that plays out in the media always ends up being just as traumatizing as the event itself. And I already spoke about what watching death does to us psychologically. I spoke about linked theory in a TikTok video, and I shared it across the social media platform. So I won't go into that. You can find that on my Facebook, Instagram pages, as well as on my business pages. But make sure that you are watching things with the purpose of helping and moving forward with a purpose, and that purpose not being to over traumatize yourself or re-victimize yourself or putting yourself in the space to now you are relating it back to you. And that is what link theory is focusing and embedding in yourself that what happens to a person that looks like you will inevitably happen to you. And that is what you don't want to do. So getting back on, directly back on topic, what we're going to talk about today is how this thing plays in the media is the first thing that happens when we see a person of color, when they are victimized, especially by police brutality. The very first thing that happens is their background is Google. And when you research Tyree Nichols now, and I'm sure that when you, if you remember George Floyd and you remember Breonna Taylor and you remember all of the others before, that it was more of their background that were talked about before anything else was. And Breonna Taylor, she didn't even have a criminal background. But the fact that we knew that she did not have a criminal background goes to show that it was researched still. And we always end up knowing more about the Black person that was victimized than we do about the person who murdered them. And that's a problem. But that is how it always works. And so that is what I want to talk about today. And so when that happens, it is only to serve as a distraction. And when we find things that happen in a person's past, then somehow that changes the narrative. It does not, it's not supposed to, because these people are not on trial for anything that they have done in the past. And the only thing that should matter when a person is murdered, when their past has absolutely nothing to do with that murder, and if their past had absolutely nothing to do leading up to that murder, then it should not even be discussed. And even at that point, only the jury who is deciding and hearing the case of the murderers should, in my opinion, have access to that information or even be discussing that information. So with that being said, what comes out about that person decides how we respond to it. And 9 times out of 10, it is always a certain and very specific facets of the media who put that information out to us. And it is fed to us in the manner, it's never the whole story, but it's only those pieces that are going to infuriate us and to have that control over us to elicit a certain response. And normally that response is going to be anger and outrage and some way to elicit a response to make us possibly do something outrageous or to pull back our support. And whatever that support looks like for you. And I say that to say this, and before I go into my point, I want to say this. It does not matter what a person has done. You do not need to have a background check unless I have missed something in the Constitution to get justice. And I know you see me looking over at my notes, but I need my notes right now. And also, thank you, all of you all. You know that I had an accident a little while ago. So I thank everybody who reached out to me and who have been very, very supportive. So I'm getting better and doing good. So I have to kind of look back and get myself back on track. So that's what you see me doing right now. But if we ever get to a point to where we say that a person is only worthy of justice or worthy of our concern if they have a clean background, then we are in turn acting worse and just like the people who oppressed us to begin with. And if that were the case, then really no one would receive justice because none of us have a clean background. To be honest, we all have done something to someone that is deserving of forgiveness on some level. It may not be on a criminal level, and it may just be not on a criminal level because you haven't gotten caught yet, or may not ever be caught. But just because you do not have charges does not mean that you have never committed a crime. So be very careful about how you judge people. So I am saying this, and if you saw how I actually put out the ad for the show that I did today, I'll find it. I actually said this justice, do we need background for justice? I hope I'm saying that right. I'm going to have to go back to it, but it said background checks and character references for justice, and then I put a question mark by it. But that is essentially what happens. As soon as a person, a Black person is killed as a result of police brutality, the first response is, let's go back and find out what they did so we can start to create this narrative to see if the police were justified in handling them in this way. Well, I want to start having those conversations amongst ourselves first, so that we can get a control over ourselves rather than handing that control over to someone else. Because, and I figure I needed to go ahead and have this conversation because I have seen this information. I saw it about, I saw it myself about a week or a little over a week ago myself when I was looking for something alternatively to put out other than the video of Tyree's killing. I wanted to put out who he was as a person, humanize him. And when I started looking up his own socials, I saw some old tweets of his that I found disturbing. And, I left it alone and I said, that's going to be a problem. And then I automatically knew, I just sat back and waited because I knew that somehow the media, if I was like, I saw it, and it wasn't even hard to do, it didn't even require any digging whatsoever. But I knew if someone else had found it, and I actually thought that it was already out there. So honestly, that's what I thought. I thought that it was already out there, to be honest, and that I had just not run across it yet. So, and then I'm not one to, I was searching for something positive to put out about him. So I am not one to put out that low hanging fruit anyway. For those of you who know me, you weren't going to find that on my page anyway. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it anywhere until yesterday. So I figured now what I want to do is have the conversation and then talk about what happens next. Because if we have the conversation and talk about why these things happen, then we can talk about what to do about it and how we can support each other and process through it as a community. Because what has happened, and I'm not going to post them, I will go and I will probably post them on the TikTok because I don't want to post them here. This is a family station and this is a family forum. And I'm careful about posting triggering information anyway. But I want to make sure that it is guarded up under 18 and older. It's not 21 and older. But I will post it possibly on TikTok later. But honestly, if you go to his Twitter feed, I think some of the information I have is not on Twitter. And I don't know if it's been taken down as of yet. But I wanted to check because when I found it, I also went back to make sure that it was authentic. And it is authentic. But it's on his, it was on his Twitter feed. I haven't checked today to see if it's still up. But I want to say this. It does not matter what has happened to a person. Justice is justice, and it should be served swiftly and fairly. And I also want to say that 2, 3, 4, and 5 things can all happen at the same time, and everybody can be right. I can have my feelings, you can have yours, and Tyree can still have justice. And so with that being said, I will go into, still not posting, but I will go into this conversation. If you look at some of the hashtags, and I'm pretty sure you all will read this somewhere later, there have been conversations about tweets, and let me look at the dates actually, that I can do and at least give you the years. There have been tweets posted recently from Tyree Nichols that he posted years ago involving colorism and one of them says, a black girl's fighting, this should be interesting, and he's laughing about it. This is a tweet posted from 2010. Like I said, some of these are old. So this is like back from 2012. Over um, 12, 13 years ago. And then there's another tweet that says, well, no, I'm not going to read that. But then there is a tweet that I will paraphrase where he calls a young lady out of her name and then he calls her stupid. She makes a comment to him in response to that tweet that I just read about him laughing about Black girls fighting. And then Tyree, in response to that, says he calls her stupid and says that he will have a pedophile to come to her home and do some unspeakable things to her. Um, and then there is another tweet of him holding up his son, saying that he is happy that his son is light skinned, or that his son has white skin. Um, he is, I mean, the tweets go on and on how he feels um, about how he feels about Caucasian women and them being his queen and his preference. And again, I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to read the exact language. I don't want to read that because I don't want to be triggering to people. And I don't want to put this information out there. You can go back and read the tweets yourself. And then he is also, but I kind of want to give you the gist of it because a lot of these tweets, they are very disturbing. He's talking about the reasons why he does not talk to dark skinned um, women. He does not use the word women. He uses the B word. He calls dark. He makes a lot of disparaging comments and calls regarding dark skinned women. And he calls dark skinned women all sorts of names and things like that. So going back to my point, we all know what's going to happen, and it's already started. So what's going to happen is those things are going to come out, and they're going to come out in the media, and they are probably going to come out at a time where these officers are going to be going to court, and they are going to go on at a time where it is time to change the conversation from, this is another one that popped up where he says he's already Black. He does not, he won't have a baby with a dark skinned girl because he don't want no Black babies and that type of thing. But anyway, those types of things come out strategically. And it is done, like I said before, to engage a response and not a good response. And it is to make us angry and to make us aggressive and then to pull back our support. Now, mind you, as a dark skinned woman, as a Black woman, as a dark skinned woman, especially as a dark skinned woman that was raised in the deep South in Alabama, where I have been called everything in the book that a dark skinned person could have been called. From the worst thing, even, from the tar baby to the Black this and that, even things that don't make sense. I think I was even called a Black oily cookie by this girl in school one time. I still haven't figured that one out. I don't even know how that's an insult. I don't think that child was too bright anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Then even you get to a point where people tell you you are pretty for a dark skinned girl, as if that's a compliment, you know? So it is interesting that knowing that these types of comments still are very triggering to our community and especially to dark-skinned women. And when dark-skinned women, Black women, yes, and dark-skinned women especially, are the first to be on the forefront to stand behind Black women, we're the first to protest, and we are the first to boots on the ground to say that this should not happen, melanin popping, froze on fleek, going, hey, we are against this, fist in the air and all of that to get behind our Black men and to stand up when we see these types of comments, and then we have the Kevin Samuels and the Passport Bros and all of these other people who will not give us the same respect. And so knowing this, and we have these conversations amongst each other, and then we have the back and forth online, they're the outliers that see this. And when they see this, they wait until instances like this happen. And then, boom, it comes up and it's thrown in our face. So right when it's time for someone who was murdered, still was murdered and deserves justice, when it is time to have that conversation and we are fired up and ready for that to happen, this happens. This is thrown in our face as if we have to make the choice of, do we support someone who does not support us? Or do we support or pull our support from someone receiving justice who was murdered? And again, as I said before, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, and 11 things can exist at the exact same time. You do not have to like Tyree Nichols. You do not have to like his trash comments. I don't like his comments. I don't know him. I do not know him at all. I do not like the comments that he made in 2010 and 2012 and 2014 and the dates that I saw on there. I don't know that man. I did not know him. I think they are trashy. I think that they are they lowbrow, low-hanging fruit. I think that what I do know is someone who has, visited the Bay Area and just seeing the culture there, colorism, and being just even a part of the Deep South. Colorism is everywhere. It is everywhere. So I know what that is about. I know that mentality, and I don't like it. I don't like those kinds of people. I'll tell you that right now. I don't. I do not like those kinds of people. Those kinds of people have caused a lot of harm. And I will say that I had to grow and learn and know that those people, even in those tweets, there's one that I just read, and I went back and I read it to get back to this point, that he disliked himself more than anything. And they project that off to other people and off to other dark-skinned women and try to make dark-skinned women, in essence, not see their own beauty or to think that they aren't beautiful, which is far from the truth, in order to make themselves feel better. And we all know that dark-skinned women are gorgeous and are beautiful because, hey, anyway. But what I am saying in regards to that is still, that is not okay. That is not okay. And I do not support that at all. I don't support the comments. I do not support the mentality. And I do not support anyone who does support that. I also do not support what happened to him. I do not support the injustices. I do not support the people who did it to him. I do not support the systems that are in place that allowed that to happen to him. And I support every effort that works against it to stop it and dismantle it. So, yes, everyone is right. And how I choose to deal with that is how I choose to deal with that. So, no, I'm not going to be in the streets protesting. I'm not going to be out in there. I'm not going to be anywhere marching about any of that. And also because first and foremost, if anything, and being here in my own community, I am going to talk about or protest why the police here have not done anything about what happened to Asia Maynard. I want to know what happened to what's going on right here in my city. I know that his family is taking care of him. And I know that he has a lot. He has my frat brother behind him. He has Ben Crump. He has national attention. But there are people in Kansas City, in this area, people that I have had on the show who needs that local support. Those are the things that I choose to do. I choose to use my platform and my energy for that. And then also, and I bring that up because when things happen with Black women and with dark-skinned Black women, and I bring up Asia Maynard, because when that sister passed, the things that were posted online about her and the fact that it was a white male that was accused of or responsible for her being deleted. And when we talk about other females, even when it came to Ketanji Brown, the first African American woman to be elected to the Supreme Court of the United States, there were more tweets from Black men about this phenomenal sister being married to a white man than it was about her entire life accomplishment. That says a lot. But again, when we talk about people being deleted, especially Black women being deleted, and when they are deleted at the hands of white men that they have dated or they have been linked to by white men, the comment that comes from Black men is horrendous and it is horrific. And because of that, as if one has to do with the other. But those are the types of things that we see. And those are the types of things that we have to deal with. And to that, I say this. Again, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 16 can exist in the same space. You have to learn how to compartmentalize those spaces, how to bring the truth out in those spaces, and how to be clear and focused and be intentional about what you're doing. What we are dealing with right now, in this space right now, is that the system of police brutality is a problem. Police brutality, we are seeing, whether they are Black or white, is a problem. It's that blue uniform and that system that is built on white supremacy. It is a problem. There's a whole list of issues that have to be dealt with that. We also have a problem with colorism. That is compartmentalized. There are things that we need to deal with within the Black community. That can be compartmentalized. How we relate to the issues within the community, how we come together and deal with those issues as a community without bringing in all of these other issues, that is what we have to deal with as well. Because our own issues cannot cloudy and muddy the water when we are trying to bring justice about for everyone or for the collective, okay? Because it cannot be about one person or about your feelings about who somebody was sleeping with or who someone prefers to sleep with. It's okay for you to not like the person. You are not going to like everybody, and that's okay. Justice does not say that it is okay to kill people that you don't like, or you can kill people that you don't like this way, but kill others this way. The police can drag these people because they look this way, but they cannot drag people because they are this color. That's not how it works. And that is not where we are trying to go. So, point being, I wanted to put that out there so you can be prepared for it. You're going to see these things at one point or another. So, first, when you see it, you're already prepared for it. You already know that it's coming. You can start thinking about what your response is going to be. Not only with this, but when and if it happens again. You can already decide what your feedback is going to be, if you decide to have any feedback at all. Because the only response should be, yes, those tweets are wrong. And hey, if you agree with it, then that's between you and your higher power, and just say, yes, that resonates with me, whatever. Then that is your response. But however, what happened to Tyree Nichols deserves justice. That is the only appropriate response. And one does not have to do with the other. And there is no way that the two should ever cross and that they should ever mix. So I don't care about the media. I don't care about the powers that be. It is time for us as a community, because we have been collectively traumatized and victimized and just controlled mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for so long. It's time to pull back. It is time to pull back, people, and gain control over ourselves, over our thought process, over our words, and over our energy. And just say, no more. Look into these things ourselves. No longer just take whatever the media gives us, whatever the media says as law, and just run with it. Research things yourselves if you must, and also know that silence is also an appropriate response. It's okay to sometimes just not say anything. This too will pass. I'm not talking about staying silent on things that you know are wrong, such as the injustices of police brutality. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the conversations about who is sleeping with who, and this man sleeping with that other officer's wife, allegedly, if and even that is true. That is something else that is being thrown out there to muddy the waters. That has nothing to do with you at all, okay? And has nothing to do with him receiving justice or giving way. Again, that would give a motive for what happened, because crimes, they do look for motive, okay? And that's all that I'll say about that. But in regards to this conversation here, stay focused. compartmentalize things where they need to be and stay aware of why information is given to you, when it's given to you, where it's coming from, and who the source is. And then wait before you react, if you choose to react. And then finally know that silence can also be a reaction. So thank you guys for tuning in to Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karasay. I do hope that your new year is and has gone well so far. Remember to contact the station or contact me via email or across any of the social media platforms regarding the family court system. I am putting together a series called, going to be two, is going to be Surviving Clay County. And it is going to be, I'm working on Surviving Clay County. So let me deal with that. And then it will be Surviving the other counties as I get the stories in. And then also send me information regarding the others as well. So I look forward to hearing all of you guys, and I will see you on the third Sunday. Bye.